All right, here we go. Welcome in, everybody. My name is Coach Hop. I'm very excited to have you here. I am going to cover something today. We've got a live Q&A. I'm going to break down a whole bunch of things here in the live Q&A. Of course, wanting to answer your questions. But to get started, we're going to really jump into a big topic. Today's topic, we are going to talk about transitions. And for DJs, this is everything. In fact, so many DJs feel like their transitions need work. And I'm here today to be able to break down a couple of different transitions that would really help you out as a hobbyist DJ, as a semi-pro DJ, or even as a pro DJ. I'm going to break down a couple of different transitions and also some myths around transitions as well. So let's go ahead and jump in. The first thing that I want to talk about here is there really are real types of transitions. There are two categories, if you will. So the two categories would be mixing and then dropping. Those are really sort of the two main categories that we would have when it comes to what it is that we do on the decks. So if we're mixing, this would generally be where you've got two songs playing over each other for a period of time, right? Like that's generally what we're talking about here. This is now maybe 8 bars, 16 bars, something like that. You've got songs that are actually being blended together. And so when we talk about the transitions with mixing, there's going to be a couple of different options here, and I'll write out a few of them here on the board. And when we're talking about dropping, what we're doing is we're looking like this. So the songs aren't actually playing underneath each other. You're playing one song and then you're playing the next song. Now, both of these techniques make up what your overall repertoire would be. So both mixing and dropping would both be things that you have within your skill set. Hey coach, which one is harder, mixing or dropping? Which one is more difficult? They're both they're both a little bit difficult. They're also both a little bit easy. It really just depends on being able to understand what the concept is and also what the music is that you're working with. Some songs don't have an intro on them. They don't have an instrumental intro on them. So you are going to be a lot more prone to having to then drop that song in as opposed to being able to mix those songs. Now, if songs have instrumental intros and you're getting them from, let's say, a record pool or something like that, then you are going to have a lot more ability for the songs to really blend together and for them to really mix. Also, we should take the time to also talk about some of the different genres that are out there. So if you are a DJ who's playing a lot more electronic dance music, you're playing house, techno, trance, new disco, shoot, you name it, tech house, right? A lot of these genres are more likely to be mixed. So that would fall under the mixed category for a lot more of the dance music. Now, does that mean that hip hop or pop music, R&B music cannot be mixed? No, it's absolutely wrong. Like I mix hip hop all the time in this sort of format. So you could also see that. It's just that dance music is built this way. It has intros and outros and there's like long sections of instrumental points to be able to blend them together. It's also made by DJs. So a lot of times because the genres are made by DJs, they're thinking about that already. Now, in terms of dropping, let's go back to this side of it. In terms of dropping, genre-wise, you're going to see this a lot more common in the hip-hop genres. Reggae as well. In fact, a lot of reggae DJs will, the songs even start not necessarily on the one. They sort of have a pickup and then fall into it. And so, another technique here in some of these different categories, which really, again, there's really two main categories that I'm suggesting. And then based on these, you have some different techniques. So let's talk about them. So in both of these, EQ would be something that you would consider. You would just do this a little bit different in each one of these. Filter, also to be used on both of these types of transitions. I'm going to show you a few examples here in just a moment. Looping could be used for both. The use of like some type of one-shot sample could also be integrated into this. Definitely a little bit more common on this side. In fact, I'll just kind of give you some And in fact, actually, like EQ could be used here, but it's more common than this. Filter, yeah, sort of filter. Loops, yes, and then effects. Definitely on both sides of those, that you would be using some types of effects. Now let's talk about scratching. Scratching primarily would be used on this category of dropping songs in versus mixing them. You'd see this more common when it comes to scratching. Um, but these are some of the different ways that you would then create some variation. And these are the two categories. Now, before we go any further, let me also say this. I get this question a lot from students. It's like, I need to learn some new transitions. I feel like I'm doing the same transitions. That's definitely a misconception, that you need to be doing different transitions all the time. Really, the different transitions are going to come from really knowing the songs and knowing the music. That's where the variation is going to come in. So it's not so much that it would come in from a place of like I'm mixing whatever between A and B, I'm using transition 1. Between B and C, I'm using transition 2. Between C and D, I'm using transition 3, and I'm just kind of rotating through all these different transitions. It's not that way at all. In fact, most times, most DJs are utilizing maybe 3 or 4 different transitions, maybe max, in an entire set. And the primary for most people that are either mixing or dropping, there's they're pretty standard in terms of how they're kind of going about this. So for a mixing DJ, you would hear a lot of this, where you're basically hearing songs blend, maybe using stems, using EQ in between here. And so there's going to be a little bit of variation, but for the most part, that's going to be the same. And then when it comes to dropping, oftentimes if I hear a DJ who's primarily a DJ who drops things in on the one, then it's typically a lot of scratching or a lot of like echo out, and then drop into the next song. Like we end up hearing that quite a lot. So, these are different things to consider. Ultimately, don't worry about needing to master all these different transitions. Really, it's just about being able to understand the music more than anything. In fact, actually, one of the best compliments you could get as a DJ is that people don't actually hear the transitions. That, especially with certain genres, that like, wow, that was so smooth. It felt like those songs really just kind of all blended together, right? Like that's a really great compliment to get. So let's come on to the rig though. Let's talk about this for a second. So today I've got a Flex 10 in front of me. We've got a lot going on here inside the Flex 10. I only plugged this up because I was getting a buzzing sound coming out of the Flex 4, but I really wanted to show the Flex 4 here today, just because I know a lot of people, maybe don't have a controller that has all the bells and whistles. And I don't want you to think that in order to do these transitions, you need to have a $1,800 controller. Like that is not what I'm trying to prove here today. In fact, everything I'm going to do can be broken down and be done on a simple 2-channel controller. Beginner entry level type of controller. So don't think that you need something fancy like this. But let's talk about this. Let's go ahead and let me bring up some tracks here. So let's go ahead and the first thing I'm gonna do is okay. So in this case with this track, we had this 4 bars that's happening here in the very beginning with, there's a horn there. So honestly, whatever I would be mixing out of, if there was a song that I was playing and I'm now mixing out of it, that feels like it gets in the way a bit, because that has the real potential to clash over the thing that I'm playing or that I'm coming out of, unless the song that I'm coming out of is really just drums. Otherwise, I am getting a bit of a clash probably. So I do need to pay attention to that. But you'll also notice that I've gone ahead and already set up hot cues on this. So I set this up. There's a 4-bar section there. And then there's an 8-bar section here that's still intro. A little bit more simple. No horn. Now the horn comes in.
Looked at it from LA,
now into the track, right? So a part of what you need to figure out when you're trying to figure out transitions is this part, knowing your music, being able to break down the songs, being able to figure out how you're going to get in and out of songs, and not necessarily in terms of what this combination is for these two songs to be able to go together, but just in general with the track itself. How do I do that? So let's go ahead and I'm actually going to mix this up. I'm going to go back to I'm going to use some tracks from our demo pack here that we use inside of our courses. Let me pull that up for you. So let me bring this up here, and I'm just going to use two tracks that I know will go together. So I'm gonna use those, and I know I'm okay to use here on YouTube. So I've got an 8-bar intro. I've also got an 8-bar chorus, right? So I know I can get out of these this way. I've got an 8-bar intro over here, 8-bar drop. So if you've not gone through and ever heard of my hot cue strategy, I break this down. The colors denote length. So in this example, and in any track I pull up, red means 8 bars. Now, for those of you who are not sure what 8 bars is 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth, right? So it's a length. We're using bars as opposed to time to denote length. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you like the mixing part of this. So if we look back at this, or we looked at two categories, mixing versus dropping. The first thing I'm going to show you is mixing. So in this case, when we talk about mixing, let's go ahead and just try something simple. So this track is going to come into the drop. This one, I'm just going to do a simple volume. You are mixing together. Perfect. Perfectly phrased mix. All I did was volume. That's it. I just brought the volume all the way up. You'll also notice I did not do this. We're not doing this on the channel faders. You're also noticing that I just left the crossfader completely in the middle. No big deal, right? Okay, so now let's try another one. Same setup. This time I'm going to use the EQ. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the EQ to be able to take out some of our frequencies. So we've got low, mid, and high. So in this case, here we go. And in fact, I'm going to start with the low down. We're going to do a bass swap. Okay, so just using EQ to be able to get out of the track. Perfect. Done. Okay, so I'm going down my list here. I'm going down my list that I gave you earlier. So that was EQ. We're on the left side, right? So now let's talk about filter. So I can also show you filter. So if we go back here, let's go ahead and do filter. Same mix. Filters this knob. And in this case, I've got to select the filter on. I'm going to give a high pass filter. Okay, so a very simple filter sweep right there. Again, this is all on the mix side, the mix category of it, right? We're going through this. EQ, we did EQ, we did filter. We could also do loop, right? So we can use a loop to get out. Now, I will say this. When it comes to loop, a lot of DJs over loop. I see this happening a lot. And a lot of times it's a strong indication that you don't know your music. So I really try to refrain from looping. Every now and then I'll find something that maybe I want to loop out of. Like maybe deliberately I want to loop out of a particular section. Like I'll give you an example. I'll reverse this time. And outside of this chorus, at the very end of this chorus, actually, sorry, it's on this one. Right, so at the end of this chorus, you'll see I've already sort of set up a loop here. Do you see it? It's a little bit green there. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this up. I'm going to activate the loop. And this time I'm going to cue up to right here. Okay. All right. So I put a little flare at the end of that, just kind of spun it back, right? But it was in a loop, so I knew I wouldn't go crazy because it would stay in a loop. That's the other nice thing about using a loop. You can use a spin back in a loop and it'll stay in that area, as opposed to sometimes if you do a spin back, it's going to go all the way back through the track and then it might sound a little crazy in the way that works. But these are different ways to use a loop. That was using a loop out. You can also use a loop in as well. I mean, there's a lot for us to cover here when it comes to transition. So this is just a part of what we're doing. The other one that I mentioned was a sample, which is not as common, honestly, inside of the mix. Although I want to show you something. This is kind of like a pro tip right here. I'm going to give you a pro tip right now. So let's say here I am. I'm about to mix out of the chorus, and I messed up. I forgot to bring it in there. So now I'm bringing it in from here. So now we just have instrumental, and I was able to hit a sample on my one-shot sampler to just kind of fill it in a little bit. Right, so I hit a sample that just said my name, which came in a little bit low, but it just said my name in there to be able to fill in that gap because I had an extra 4-bar instrumental section right there. So samples can be really great for that use as well, especially on the mixing side. Everything I'm focused on right now and what I'm showing you is all on the mixing side. And then the last category that we're talking about here, if I look back at my scribbling notes here, the last one was effects. It's talking about effects. So, and by the way, these things can also be the combination of this, right? Like the combo of these things. So I don't necessarily need to use only one at a time. I can like put some of these together. But in terms of the effects, I can use different effects while I'm in the mix. And there's 2 different categories of effects. And again, I personally like to make things simple. That's why you hear me saying there's 2 different things or whatever. There's obviously like you could skin the cat a million different ways. But here inside of this First 50 DJ Techniques book, if anybody doesn't have this, I highly recommend it. It's a book that I wrote. Ended up writing it during the pandemic. And not because it was the pandemic, but it just happened to work out that way timing wise. But I have a concept 29 and concept 30. So concept 29 is rhythm effects. What is that on page 60? Here, I'll give you a shot of this so you can see this. So, and I know this might be a little bit hard to see right now. We can pop this up in a graphic later so that you can really see this. But there's 2 categories, rhythm effects and non-rhythm effects. So rhythm effects are things like delay, echo, spiral, reverse delay, roll, gate. These are effects that really rely on the timing, like the rhythm of things. So you need to make sure that the grid is correct. You should make sure that the BPM on the track is correct and the BPM on your effects is correct when you're using something like that. Otherwise, you'll get an echo that is off. It'll sound off. So we want to make sure that like when it comes to a rhythm effect, it's on beat. And our non-rhythm effects are things like reverb, pan, filter, flanger, phaser. Mobius saw. Like you have all these types of effects. And depending on the software you're using, depending on the hardware you're using, you might have some different effects. But I would really kind of categorize them as these rhythm effects or non-rhythm effects. And ultimately, you probably won't use all of them in your lifetime, honestly. You'll probably stick to a handful that you like that work really well. The most common are echo, reverb, flanger, gate is a common one too. Those are sort of the most common ones. Sometimes a spiral, but did I say echo, delay? Yeah, those are sort of the most common ones. And now here on my Here, I'll give you this overhead. On the Flex 10, I've also got this beat effects section, so I can use these different beat effects that are actually built into the controller themselves. Otherwise, I can go into Serato and use the built-in software effects that are here. So I've got some different options that I can utilize when it comes to effects, especially when using the Flex 10, and especially using your software versus your hardware. So gives you some different options to use. But that hopefully that makes some sense. I almost feel like this could be a multi-part thing. Like we can go on and on about transitions. Um, and maybe we should. I mean, that really was all about, ones that you can use while you're mixing. So if you're in the middle of mixing, let's just kind of finish off what I was saying. Like if I was here, I come and I'm going to use some different effects this time. So we're going to use an echo at the end of this, or well, maybe we use a reverb at the end of this. So I'm going to make sure that this is set on the right channel. Here, let me just show you here. So I'll make sure that this is set on the right channel. So I'm selecting reverb. I'm putting it on channel 1 because that's the one I'm going to come out of. So I'm going to only use reverb there. I've got my level depth knob here and then my on and off here. So you can hear that. You'll see that this is blinking. So like I was saying, we can go combinations. Right, so you saw how I did that. In this case, I was using the reverb. I was able to use the level knob. I already had turned it on, and then I brought the reverb up on it. And this is this is all feel. This is a lot of the stuff that when you talk about your practice time, I've said this before. Some of you have heard me say this. Most DJs practice wrong. Most DJs think that practice is on your DJ rig, and it's not necessarily. I think a majority of your practice, 70% of your practice should be on the tracks themselves, breaking them down, figuring out the tracks, where are you getting in, where are you getting out, setting your hot cues, organizing your music. 70% should be there, downloading new music, all of that. And then 30% should be actually on the rig itself. So in terms of that 30%, this is a good thing to do. And in fact, I'm going to give you something right now for those of you who are here with us. Pick an effect. It doesn't matter what it is. Just pick one effect for this week or today. Pick an effect, load it on, see what it does, try to figure out what it does. Maybe you don't even know what it's called. Like you've never heard of it before. Try it out. Figure out like how you would use this. Is this a rhythm effect, a non-rhythm effect? Would you use this in the middle of mixing? Would you use this as a way of getting out of the track abruptly? Like where would you use this? And then really just focus on how to use that one effect and do that. Focus on that for the week or for the next couple of days, and then move on to another effect. There's no need to rush it. You don't need to know what every single effect is. Okay, cool. So we've now covered all of these for mixing. I'm going to stop for a moment here. I do want to acknowledge everybody who is here and is here live. Shout out to our friends here on YouTube. We've got some folks on Twitch. Good to see you. I see DJ Clags up in here on Twitch. Good to see you, Clags. Always good to see you. One of our Pro DJ Cert alums. Good to see you there. And then we've got DJ Fizz. I think it's DJ Fizz talking about stems. Also asked a good question here, which is, why do you prefer your waveforms to move that slowly? Now, what you're saying slowly, but what that really means is that the waveform is zoomed out. Right, so if I plus or minus on the keyboard, and is going to zoom in or out. Good question. Why do I like to have my waveforms zoomed out? Because I'm not mixing based off of my waveforms. Like I'm not mixing by watching the waveform. There's really no need for it to be zoomed in. Truly. In this case, in this example of what I'm doing, I'm also using BeatSync. So I also don't really even need to see that. I don't even need to look at the waveform. I know that my grid is on. I know that my grid is right. When I bring the song in, especially if I'm using BeatSync, it's locked in. We're good to go. I don't need to see it. Now, honestly, when I actually do perform, I'm using my headphones and I've got my headphones plugged in and I'm manually beat matching using my headphones, using my ears. That's just a preference that I have. I'm a bit old school when it comes to that. That's how I learned how to DJ, was manual beat matching on vinyl, and so that still is more comfortable for me. With a lot of these examples, I'll use BeatSync here in the studio, like for some of these examples and whatnot, just so that I can kind of be free here without the headphones and whatnot and be able to do that. But truthfully, I don't need to see the zoomed in waveform. And actually, this can be very confusing. If you're zoomed into and you're trying to match up the beats by watching the waveform, you're actually picking up a bad habit by doing that as well. So I would highly encourage people, for those of you who are watching here, please, get a chance to record yourself and then see what you look like while you're playing. If you find yourself just staring at the laptop the whole time, and especially if for a lot of DJs, if you've got your laptop right in front of you and you're staring at the laptop, your body stops moving. You look like you're not into it, right? So it's one of those things. Even here in the studio, I've got my laptop off to the side a bit. It's out of the view, and then I can be here with you. And ultimately, when it's time to mix these songs in, I shouldn't be relying on a waveform to be able to match them up. We're not match. First of all, it's not 100% accurate. There's a slight delay in what that is, like in the display that's coming. And depending on your computer, there might be a significant delay. So music is heard, not necessarily seen. So I really want you to focus on training your ears to be able to hear when a song is off and then how to adjust it. Yeah. DJ Fizz. Oh, look at that. I will zoom out today. Great, man. We've maybe inspired you to be able to try something new, which by the way, I just want to point that out for everybody that is tuning in. I say this, some of you have heard me say this before. You don't know what you don't know. And I'm a self-taught DJ as well. And so there's no judgment in terms of where anybody is at least not coming from me, and definitely not coming from anybody on our team. This is something where we really focus on growth-minded DJs, people who are wanting to get better. No matter what level or stage you're at, you're just like, man, I feel like I can always learn something. And as a coach, oftentimes what my job is, there's people I start with at completely ground zero. But a lot of times I'm starting with somebody who has some experience already, who's maybe already gigging, already doing things, running a successful business possibly. And it's just this little tweak. It's like this little tweak. And it's the same as like somebody who's an athletic coach or trainer. It's like, man, like, let's fix your swing. Like, what if you just moved the club a little bit more this way? Or like, wow, I realize that your hands are a little bit too close together. What if you separate them just like a quarter of an inch? And like now all of a sudden, wow, that was a huge thing that like changed everything. So sometimes it is the small things. It's not necessarily always like the big things. So shout out to I want to shout out to DJ Fizz though. I think I'm getting that right. DJ Fizz. Because you're down to try something new. I love it. And thank you for asking the question and for being here. Okay, cool. And actually, DJ Fizz, one last thing just to finish our thought. You also said this here in the chat, because I do rely on the waveforms when it comes to beat matching. Yeah, and scratching. Yes. So exactly. Now I'm going to show you one more thing that you could do too. The other thing, especially if you're a Serato user, you can also change the view to that. So this now gets you completely out of watching the waveform, because now the waveforms are gone. So this is in library mode. And all I did was I hit spacebar on my keyboard and it turned it that way. I had somebody recently call me up on a 911 call. Help, my Serato is broken. I don't see the waveforms. It's got this weird layout. And that they had accidentally hit spacebar, which is very, very common. Like spacebar is a very common key to be able to use, so so there's that. But that's a good trick too, is to do that, because now you're not even doing that. I've got a good friend of mine, DJ Puffy from Barbados, who's a fantastic DJ. If you watch Puffy play, his laptop actually is not even facing him. His laptop, I think, is over here in his studio. Like it's literally here. So when he's playing and he's here and he's streaming, his focus, he's not even looking at that. In fact, everything that he's pulling up is off of the mixer, and then changing the track off the mixer, doing everything sort of off the mixer, not necessarily off of the laptop. So yes, but great comments. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate that. Let's see. We've got another one here. Mike, I'm learning how to scratch on a DDJ7. I'm going to assume that's a Rev 7. No, a DDJ7. Having no luck, do you recommend I upgrade to something with a spinning platter? So a spinning platter would be like the Rev 7. My guess is the DDJ, maybe a Flex 6 or something like that. There is no 7. There is no 7 that doesn't have a motorized platter. So it must be like a, I don't know. Yeah, maybe like a Flex 6 or whatever. But let me address it. There is this misconception that because most scratch DJs are using things with motorized platters, like, turntables or like a, like a Rain Performer or like a Rain 1 or a Rev 7 with spinning platters. There's this misconception then that design is specifically for scratching. And I just kind of want to dispel the myth or the rumor around this. Number one, you can scratch on something that has non-motorized platters. I mean, this is a perfect example here. This is can scratch just fine on, something. There's no motorized platter on this, and it's just fine. Like, you'll be able to scratch on it. There is a little bit of adjustment that you make if you're used to a motorized platter, but the same would be if you went reverse as well. And so what I would say is scratching is a technique that could be used on anything. I mean, I hear people talk about, oh, the platters are too small to scratch with. No, they're not. I mean, I could show you tons of videos of friends of mine. Like one of them in particular, DJ Dynamics. He has a whole thing. A lot of his content is he's using the small little like Hercules Starlight with the jog wheels that are that are about this big, and he's killing it on that. So it's not the size of the platter, it's not the behavior of the platter, whether or not it's motorized or not. It's about learning the actual proper scratch technique and becoming confident and proficient when it comes to that. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. This is not something that will happen overnight. I know it seems really easy. Something like this, even something like that, where it's just a sort of a simple open fader scratch. I'm not even using the crossfader, right? Like something simple like that. You'd be like, oh, well, I could do that. It's like, oh, I could do that. Even just the scratch into release takes some practice, takes a lot of muscle memory. And again, this is 30 years of DJing for me, folks. So I should make this look easy. And a lot of the DJs that you're watching online, you Scratch Bastard, Qbert, like some of these amazing, scratch DJs, yeah, they're making it look easy. In fact, Scratch Bastard has a whole routine of like, don't I make it look easy? Don't I make it look good? And like, there's it's true. It's true. You do make it look easy, but you don't see the 20,000 hours that has gone into that. So don't also get discouraged if you're just getting into scratching and it sounds horrible. There really is. We can take you through it step by step. I've actually got a video up on YouTube. I think it's called Scratching 101. Check that out. I'm literally walking you through it step by step as if you didn't know how to do anything. And this is the fundamental base. And in fact, here's one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they start scratching and they start emulating what they see when they see DJ scratching. They try to do the crossfader and the platter at the same time. So they're trying to like, and it's because that's what they see. They see their favorite DJ using a crossfader and the platter, and that's what they feel like they need to do. The key to this is you got to focus on one first, and you need to focus on the platter first. So it goes back to your whole question about a spinning platter, a motorized platter or not. You need to be able to master both without the crossfader. So just even like, and this blends into what I was going to say about transitions, right? So like even something like this, let me just show you and I'll go to 3-shot, okay? I'm at the beginning of the sound, because that sounds different than this, right? Like my hand is in the same place. It actually looks probably from afar, this looks like, well, what did you do differently? I've moved my hand literally like this much. And that's what I was talking about the coaching. Move my hand about this much. And now it sounds horrible, right? So now if I were to release this, there's a bit of a gap there. So when songs come in, it's not going to come in right. As opposed to when my hand is here and I'm right here in at the very beginning of the sound. And then when I release, you'll notice I'm releasing forward. So I'm releasing forward. Now I'm not pushing, right? And I'm not, and again, these are all very subtle differences, very, very, very subtle differences in terms of what it is that I'm doing, but the result is much different. And so, yes, it takes a little bit of time to be able to get this down. If you're using a motorized platter, here's what I want you to do. You'll put your hand on the actual platter. Underneath it, the platter will be spinning. I want you to press all the way down until the platter stops. That's too much pressure. So then I want you to start to lift your hand up until you can get as light as you possibly can get, but the sound stays in the same place when the platter is on. So technically now the platter would be moving under you, and yet you're still in the same place. That is about how much force you need to have on the actual platter. So sometimes the reason why people want a motorized platter is because then that becomes really obvious. Now, with a non-motorized platter, it's kind of a similar thing, except you can get away with a lot more. There's a lot more grace in terms of the pressure. So if right now I'm pressing, I know you can't tell, but right now I'm pressing down really hard on the platter. Right now I'm really light on the platter. And there's really not that big of a difference in terms of what it is that I'm feeling, right? So again, got to get the platter part down first. Both sides, right and left, right? Being able to like simple baby scratch. That's what that's called, is simple baby scratch. And now a baby scratch, just because it's simple, doesn't have to be boring. This also is a baby scratch. That also is a baby scratch. Also a baby scratch, right? So you can have some variation with it. Just because it's a baby scratch doesn't mean it needs to be boring. And then the other thing is, once you got that part of it down, then it's about being able to control the I would say, the volume fader. So watch this. So you could take something, right? So in this case, what I did is I'm bringing this up, right? So I'm bringing this up. It's lower. And same thing with getting out of something. Right? These are basic fundamental things. And something like this could take you months to get something that simple down. But if you don't have good foundation, if you don't have good platter control, it's going to be really hard to add in all of the other stuff. So then once you add in the crossfader, that would be after you have really good control of your actual platters, because that's going to be more important than the crossfader. What you're doing is you're cutting the sound. So more of the complex scratches are using the crossfader to be able to get these different cuts, these different sounds that you're hearing. And to be able to like chop a sample into multiple pieces, right? Like with like an ah sound, right? So you could have something like, let's see. So you could have something like this. Ow! And then on this, you can get, ow! Right? So you're like getting that to be chopped up, or right? And so this becomes a lot more complex. I mean, there are still scratches I can't do that I'm continuing to practice like on this. And I mean, I don't know. The best in the business is, in my opinion, is DJ Qbert, hands down. I think in terms of the most creative, like when it comes to the physical act of scratching, that's my opinion. We can debate about it. But even then, I mean, he's constantly doing new things, new techniques, new combinations of things. It's like it's mind blowing. Okay, cool. Hopefully that all makes sense. Yes. And if in the comments, please let me know. Is this helping anybody? Is this helping anybody here in the comments? Let me know. I'm over here in a black box. You know what I mean? I can't I can't see y'all. All right. Yeah, Mike says, yep, that's it. Okay, cool. So, and Doug says, thanks for breaking that down. Cool. All right. Clag says, keep going. All right, appreciate it. Yeah, let me know. I need your feedback here in the comments. All right. So, by the way, if you've got a question, feel free to put it in the comments. I will do my best to get to it. It doesn't need to be about what I'm talking about here. It could be something else too. I want to be able to honor those of you who are here live with me with this Q&A as well. So we can transition to that. And if you don't have any questions yet, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move on to the next part of what I wanted to show you, which was instead of mixing, we're going to talk about what this looks like when it comes to dropping. So this is that second category. So just to recap, if those of you who are just joining us, so as a quick recap, we've got mixing. A lot of dance music is centered around mixing, but that doesn't mean that you can't mix other music. In fact, I think most music sounds best mixed because it doesn't surprise the audience necessarily. So a majority of my transitions personally are mixed, but you can also use a drop, like to be able to drop tracks in. So this visual is what I'm talking about. Song is playing and then in comes the new song. So you don't actually have much of an overlap between the songs playing. One song plays, then the next song comes in, and you're going to hear this a lot in hip hop and reggae. Again, this doesn't mean that if you're a hip hop DJ, you can't mix, or if you're a dance music DJ that you can't drop songs in. In fact, my take on this is that as a DJ, you need to have all of this under your belt. I personally think that you should have all of this, that you can do all of it. All right, so let's go down the list here. EQ is not going to be as much of a thing when it comes to, you know what I didn't add in? Also, I didn't add in stems, but I think you guys kind of know about stems or whatnot. Like, obviously, you can use stems when we're mixing. And I should add in stems here too. So we can use stems to be able to get out of things as well. But EQ is going to be a lot less important especially when we talk about, the idea of dropping songs, because the EQ is really about being able to not have things clashing while they're mixing together. So if I'm not really mixing them together, I'm not really using the EQ. In fact, if you watch a lot of DJs who rely a lot on dropping and are dropping songs in, drop that song in, drop that song in, drop that song in, they hardly ever touch the EQ, right? They hardly ever touch this right here, these EQ knobs. Instead, so we're just going to skip over EQ. We'll talk about filter. Like, you could use filter as a way of being able to get out of a song. So let's mix this up here. I'm going to go to let's see. I'm going to give you an example of a song. This is a song that starts right on, that starts right away. Something that I would refer to as a cold start song. This is how we do. Right? So as that comes in, immediately you know the track. So if I were to, do this and now transition, I could go from, it doesn't matter what my BPM is. So actually, let me break that down as well. So in terms of mixing, BPM absolutely matters, right? Like BPM for sure matters because I'm going to mix the songs together. So like my ±4 is really important. With drop mixing, BPM really doesn't matter as much. In fact, dropping a song in is actually a really great way to transition BPM and not just be stuck at the same BPM. So we could do stuff like that as well. Now, I still want to sort of maintain the same timing. So if I were to, let's say, in this case, I'm just going to use the filter. This is how we do it. That's it. This time I didn't scratch anything in. It was just literally that I started the track, right? Had the filter out and then started the track. Now, we can do this in so many different ways. We can use all of this again is the same thing. It's just a different variation. So we can use a loop to get out. We could use a sample in between how that goes down. We can use effects like an echo out or a reverb effect. We can scratch the other track in or scratch the other track out. Like all of these things are the same. Stems, same thing. We can do that as well when it comes to stems. So, something I guess that, a variation of this that you'll see. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's say I was to loop this out. This is how we do. Right? So you get the idea. Like I could use a loop, I could use effects, all that. The concept is still the same. And what I do need to maintain is when I get out of it. So I do want to still keep the high point of the song, let's say the chorus or the drop. I still want to keep that intact. And what really matters is the song that I'm going into really does matter. Now, I could do this and do this with a track that just starts instrumental, but it's going to be a little bit weird. So like let's say I was to let me go back to that other track I was playing earlier. Where's that? I really like this track. In fact, maybe I've already mapped it out, but maybe I'll break down how I map this out. But like if I were to then let's say do this same kind of transition. This time I'll do something different. I'll do a reverb. Right, so now I've got some time in here. DJ Hopper. Add in the sample, right? That's a little bit too much time here, right? Especially if I had a dance floor. Now, this is also important to note. Depending on what my scenario is, if this is just more of a lounge set where I'm just in charge of setting the vibe, it probably doesn't like I don't need to feel so rushed when it comes to some of these things. And I can drop into an instrumental, intro and it be perfectly fine because it actually gives it a little bit of space, especially if I'm changing it up. If I'm going from like a big dance tune and now, reverbing this out or echo out and then I'll go into this next track, it might be good to like create a little bit of space there just so that it doesn't feel as abrupt. But ultimately, the whole idea here is we're not trying to sneak this in. We are deliberately changing this up a lot of times. Okay. I could talk about stems. We could not. We'll see. I'm going to park that right there. I will say when it comes to transitions, just to reiterate, let's recap. Let's recap what I've talked about now. When it comes to transitions, number one, do not be fooled thinking that you need to have all of these different transitions under your belt. You don't. The basic needs of a DJ are being able to keep the vibe going, keep whatever it is, keep the people dancing. Like that's really our job. So how you transition, like you'll get better over time. And ultimately, do you want to have more variation in what it is that you do? Sure, that's fine. But I also just want to make sure that I frame this properly from you so you could hear it from somebody like me who is saying you don't score more points by having different variations of transitions. In fact, what scores higher is your ability to curate the music and curate the vibe and make sure that you're playing the right songs at the right time and that the songs are coming in smooth. And that's really what we're focused on. Whether or not you use a loop, oh man, he used the loop 4 times and he used the filter 5 times and he used that part doesn't matter. Nobody cares about that. If there was a transition that you had though that was very abrupt, like let's say a spin back, and every transition was a spin back, then yes, I would definitely encourage you to change that up because that's a lot. And then okay, so then the second part of what I was going to say is it's important to remember that there are 2 types of transitions and two types of mixing styles. And here's the 2 types of mixing styles: mixing and dropping tracks in. So depending on which one you're using more of, which I recommend that you know how to do both, But depending on which one you're using more of, then these would be some of your different options. And even off of this, I mean, it gets crazy, right? Like there are so many different ways to put this together. I mean, how many different samples do you have in your library? How many different effects are there? How many different ways could you use stems or filter, EQ? So the variations become really a lot, like quite a lot. But ultimately, it's not really about that. I really want to make sure that you keep that in mind, that this is really about the crowd. This is really about the audience. This is about being able to play the right song at the right time. So don't get so caught up in the technical part that it takes you out of our main job, which is for them to have smiles on their faces and for their bodies to be moving. That's what this is all about. Hopefully this is helpful for you. I want to take a moment to double check what's going on in the chat. If you've got things here, you're here live with us, let me know if there's something you want me to cover, if you got a question, and let me know if this is helping you at all. I see Mitch saying this makes sense. Appreciate that. Glad it's locking in here. I see Kai Suri here on Twitch. Nice to see you, man. And let's see. Okay, back to DJ Fizz. DJ Fizz has another question here. I'm what you call a TikTok DJ that is trying to start doing school corporate wedding events. How do I figure out if I'm ready to take that step? Great question, Fizz. And I'd actually invite you to send me an email. Hapa, H-A-P-A at thedjcoach.com. I'd love to be able to walk you through that in a more personal way. I definitely have a couple of follow-up questions, but I will answer this sort of more broadly and generally. How do you know if you're ready? This is a very difficult question to answer. And here's how I will say this. You will never feel ready. Even for the folks that we coach, that we've spent months with coaching, and building up their confidence, there are times where they don't feel ready for these things. And that's not, a lot of times it's not because they're not actually ready, but because they want to do a good job. And so they want to make sure they're presenting themselves the best possible way. We all do, right? So a part of us, sometimes gets in our head and like, oh, you got this imposter syndrome. I know most DJs, most creatives that I know have this imposter syndrome going on where you feel like, man, they're gonna find out that I'm just a fake and a phony, and I can't do these things. I mean, even for me at this stage, I feel that way. There's times where I have to really fight that off. How do you know you're ready? You will never be fully ready. However, I would encourage you to be prepared. So if you have an opportunity, if you have a gig, it's really important that you really do prepare for it. This isn't just like I'm going to show up. I've got my streaming service loaded into my Serato or my DJ software, and I'm just going to have people come up to me and ask me for songs, and then I'm just going to play them. Like that. That's not preparation. It's okay to have that, and it's okay to have a streaming service locked in, but they're hiring you for a reason, right? We need to bring some value to the table as a DJ. So we want to make sure that we're prepared for that. We need to make sure that we're professional, that we're showing up on time. Early is on time, right? That we're showing up, that we're prepared, that we can exude some level of confidence. Where that confidence can come from, certainly in our program, comes from having a team around you, being able to get specific feedback from coaches that are not just BSing you, and you're actually getting feedback on your mixes, and like, okay, this is better than it was before, and these are some of the things that I need to fix and I need to work on. So I think all those things can be big confidence boosts. I think DJing sometimes can be a very lonely endeavor, and sometimes people have this false sense that it is a solo sport, and it's not. This is a team sport. This is one of the reasons why we're here. We believe that this really is a team sport and that you need a team around you. And I don't see why a DJ shouldn't have a coach. I mean, you look at every major singer that's out there. I mean, at any level, has a vocal coach. Anybody who's taking this seriously has a vocal coach, right? On the singer side. Or, I mean, look at athletics, same thing. I mean, Michael Jackson had a vocal coach. I mean, that's crazy to me. So we're really trying to change that on our side. And I think that can also help boost your confidence also when you have people in your corner, you have mentors, people that are around that are not just gassing you and that are, giving you the right steps. In addition to what you're asking about, I also feel like there's a like a business side of that too, a business and branding side of that as well, in terms of how you transition from just playing online live, not necessarily needing to lock down clients and whatnot, to then now transitioning yourself into a legitimate business. And there are some real steps that you would need to take in order to do that. We have a program called our Pro DJ Certification Program. Hit me up if you're out there and you're interested in wanting to go deeper and see where DJing can take you. We'd love to see if you're a good fit for that type of program, and how we might be able to help you out. But yeah, I'm excited for you. I encourage you to take that leap, because yes, DJing here is great online, and like getting a chance to see y'all in the comments, like that's cool and all, but being able to see faces live, being able to see people dancing to the music that you're playing, getting sweaty off of what I mean, it doesn't even have to be 100 people in the room. There could be 4 people dancing to what it is you're doing, and that's going to make you smile. And I encourage all of you to be able to experience that at some point in time if you've never experienced that. And if you have, you're hooked for life. I mean, that really is the ultimate drug. You are hooked. You are addicted to that for life. Making people feel good. I mean, name a better job. Name a better job. You're playing music, getting paid, making people have a great time, putting smiles on people's faces. Name a better job. Seriously. Okay, cool. I'm going to double check. Hopefully that was helpful. I hope I answered that, DJ Fizz. Yes. Okay, cool. Got it. Joy Mac. We got Joy Mac in the, I see you, Joy Mac. Community is so helpful, as well as the local mentor accountability partner. Oh, yes, 100%. Absolutely. Yes. Okay, cool. I do have a question from Doug. Doug Gibbs, 106. Hapa, how do you reset the pitch with the controller connected? Let me think about what you're asking. So I might need a little bit of clarity there. There's a couple of things of like what people will call pitch. So on an old school turntable, this was our pitch control. Now, this actually controls tempo, because pitch can actually be locked, or the key can be locked. So in this case, like, I'm changing the tempo. Let me go to this. I'm changing the tempo, but you'll notice that the pitch is staying the same. The pitch is staying the same as the original song. And that's because I've got this. Do you see my cursor? I've got this on right here. This is my key lock inside of Serato. So if I were to turn that off,
Went to see diamonds dancing on his neck, pretty smile, bands on his feet.
Right. So now that is changing because I turned it off. Typically, I like to DJ with that on, because I like for the song to be at its original pitch, original key. So when I'm thinking about what you're asking, maybe that's one way to maintain the original pitch of the song, like the original key of the song. Or if you're talking about how to reset the tempo, one of the ways to reset the tempo, if you're using BeatSync, you're going to need to turn BeatSync off. Right. So if you're using BeatSync, you're going to need to turn BeatSync off in order to get back to the original tempo. So the original tempo of this song is 110. But like, let's say I was to BeatSync. So now on my controller, you'll notice that my tempo, when I get back to the middle, is at 107.7, which is not correct, right? The original tempo in the middle of this would actually be 110. So there's a couple of things that I could do. In this case, I could hit tempo. No, I can't hit tempo reset on this. In this case, what I would need to do is I would need to turn off BeatSync, shift off, and then I could move. Then I can move my tempo fader back. So I'm hoping I'm answering your question correctly. Let me know, Doug, if that was right. Does that help? Sorry, man, if I didn't get that right. Okay, got it. Okay, good. Okay, so yeah, tempo. Got it. So yeah. So BeatSync is good, especially there's a lot of people that have some very polarizing thoughts around BeatSync, especially a lot of like veteran DJs may even, scoff at a DJ who's using BeatSync. I've had people tell me that I shouldn't teach BeatSync, and I highly disagree. I think we have it here for a reason. Like there's some really great benefits of using BeatSync. However, I think you should know that BeatSync can fail you. So if your grids are wrong, using BeatSync is not going to save that. So you need to make sure that you know how to edit the grid if that's the case. And then again, changing up tempo, or if you want to play something at the original tempo, you'll need to get in the habit of knowing how to turn the BeatSync on and off, toggling it on and off to be able to change up tempo. We don't necessarily want to play at the same tempo and the same BPM the entire time, especially if I'm playing a 4-hour gig. I probably don't want to play at the same tempo the whole time. So just being aware of that, that's all, and knowing how to deal with that. Cool. I know we're getting close to our time here. And yeah, I actually really like what you said, Joey. I'm gonna highlight this real quick. Sync is a tool, not a crutch. I like that. Yeah. I think if you use sync in that way as a tool and you understand how to use the tool, it can be very powerful. Especially if you want to do something really creative where you've got like 3 or 4 things going at the same time. Like you're going to really need sync to be able to do that. It'd be a lot harder to manually beat match it. Could you? Yes. But it would also be a lot more difficult to be able to do that. And then there's some real things that, are incredibly awesome about using, sync. You can use sync in a variety of ways that is a tool that we didn't have before. For instance, like I could take a track, like let's say this track was here and I was going to beat sync them. So now what I could do is, so watch this. As this track is playing, I'm not even going to touch it. I'm touching the other side. So I was touching the other side and being able to move the tempo up, not even touching this side of the tempo, right? To be able to do that. So there's all sorts of like things that we can do with BeatSync. You can use it for like creative transitions and things like that as well. So yeah, don't hate on the tool, but do understand that it is a tool, not a crutch. I love that, Joey. Appreciate that. Cool. Last thing I'll say about sync is not only do I think of it as a tool, but I think one of the best analogies that I have around sync is I think about sync a little bit like training wheels, especially for new DJs who are getting into DJing. I think sync really provides the ability to not worry about falling off the bike. And you can focus on the stuff that matters, such as like when to get in and out of the song, how to use the volume faders, how to use the EQ, things like that, before learning how to manually beat match. The way that I used to teach was I used to teach manual beat matching first, like that you had to beat match by ear. And a part of the reason why I taught that is because when I started teaching, everybody was on vinyl. We were all on vinyl. So you had to learn how to manually beat match. There was no way around it. That was step one. That was lesson one, or lesson 1 through 5 was learning how to manually beat match, dropping the song in on the one, like getting your timing down with the scratch and dropping songs in on the one, because that's what we had. So that's what we had to use. And so that's what we had to teach. But now, most people are not getting into DJing on a pair of turntables to start with. Most people are getting into DJing on a controller of some kind, which starts instantly. So even the ability to scratch and drop a song in, that's not even that necessary for most people. I mean, what I'm talking about is this, like the ability to, what I was showing you, like this would be like lesson 1, right? Like of being able to drop that in, which is what I told you would take some time for you to maybe be able to learn. And it did back in the day, even when I was trying to teach people how to do this. But now we also have the ability to, right? Or, and it starts right away, right? With a turntable, if I were to hit play on a turntable, like a Technics 1200, it wouldn't just play right away. There'd be a little bit of like, like, into getting into it, which is why we had to scratch. Like it was a necessity, guys. Like this wasn't something that was like, ooh, like this is really cool. It was also really cool, but it was really a necessity to be able to bring the song in so that it would come in on time. Now we have technology that like bring it in on time, right? Without you having to manually on it. There is still merit in using your hands. And it does, I will tell you, it feels different to be able to manually control things. You feel a lot more in control. It's the same as like driving stick shift right? Versus like your car is just a manual car. So there's that. Yeah, hopefully that's helpful. Any last questions? Feel free to put them in the chat. Otherwise, we will call it. I appreciate you being here. If you found this helpful, please let me know in the chat as well. Make sure, by the way, if if you like this style of teaching, if you like this style of coaching, you want more of this, you need more of this, hit me up, hoppa at thedjcoach.com. Don't forget thedjcoach.com. We'd love to be able to see how we might be able to help you. We've got lots of different options and different programs and things that like really can fit where you're at. And then in addition to that, we have a pretty active YouTube channel these days. And I'm posting up content on YouTube. Make sure that you subscribe and follow along and hit that little bell thing to get notified of when new things come out. But we're putting out new videos. And if you have a suggestion or there's something that you'd want for me to cover in a future video, please also reach out because we do take obviously that into consideration. And one of the last videos we did, that actually came from a suggestion from somebody online. And so we did a whole thing around Serato settings that I think was very helpful for a lot of people. So yeah, if there's anything that you want us to cover, make sure to reach out. I'm also going live. I'm going live for the next 6 weeks here on YouTube and then also on Twitch. For those of you who are on Twitch, also make sure to subscribe or follow the channel on Twitch. We're getting ready to build something special out on Twitch as well. Do a little bit of showcasing with some of our students. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you guys. Yeah, appreciate you guys. I see some of you in the comments. Home team, I see you. You're welcome. Terrence, you're welcome. Glad that you got something out of this. Doug, thanks for the kind words. Great to have you all here. Everybody, have a great rest of your evening. I'll see you soon. Good night. God bless.